What is up, everybody? Welcome to RBS Cinema. You know the drill. Each week we talk about a new movie. This week's movie is going to be Street Fighter. And reason for this movie is because that when this comes out, it'll be after my birthday because, of course, I was born on Christmas. So I wanted to talk about one of my favorite movies. And as we go forward, what I want to do is talk about other people's favorite movies on their birthdays. So, JK, if you ever come over again and it's around your birthday, you can talk about a movie that you really enjoy.
Yeah.
So,
sure, it'll be one of the Spider-Mans.
Yeah, right. And with that being said, I'm your host, Devin. With me, I have my best friend, JK. And unfortunately, Sam's not here because he had a family emergency. So, shout out to Sam. I was going to say shout out to Sham.
Shout out to Sham.
Shout out to Sham. But yes, we wish him all the best of luck. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. Don't want to put his life on blast or anything like that. So we'll let him be. But otherwise, on a happier note, for those of you that are new to the podcast, essentially what we do is that we'll talk about a movie, and we'll talk about our favorite bits from beginning to end. And by the end of it, we will give our consensus on whether this being the reason why this is called RBS is a rent, buy, or a skip. So that is how we dictate on what we feel about the movie, what you guys should also check out. And then we also talk about taglines, and we also talk about which Sam suggested as suggestive people. I was calling it wrong people because what I would do is that I would look up the IMDb ratings on certain movies, and we would talk about that and dissect what they're talking about.
Okay.
So, and I changed that a little bit because I started doing 1 star and 10 stars.
Yeah.
So that way we get both sides of the spectrum of like John Wick, for instance, or like The Batman.
Right.
It's like those are really good, high regarded movies. So it's like, okay, let's look at the low ratings for this kind of
There's still
kind of
going to
movie.
be people that aren't going to enjoy the movie.
Right. It's like for whatever reason, right. And so especially for this, it's like, okay, it definitely seems like it's a middle movie.
Kind of road, yeah.
So it's like, okay, let's do the good and also like the bad of the movie.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Yeah. So, but we will get to that at the end. But otherwise, how are you?
Doing well.
Good.
Thank you for having me today. This is exciting. Very fun.
Yeah, because we were supposed to do this last week, but because of the weather, because of how bad the roads were.
Yeah.
Because for those of you that don't know, we live in the Midwest. So we had a really bad rainfall that turned into ice on the roads. So it's a terrible time all the way around.
I let my dog outside, and he tried to run out to the backyard and just immediately turned into a Scooby-Doo cartoon, sliding all over the ice.
Let's get out of here!
Yeah.
He was fine. He didn't slip, but I was definitely laughing.
Yeah, for sure. But we'll get into the movie here, unless you have anything to add, to interject.
No, I think you set it up pretty well.
Awesome. But yeah, feel free to interject for things that you want to point out, talk about, anything like that, because of course it's your first time being on here.
Cool.
So, which I don't know if you watch it or not.
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes.
Okay, cool. So, but yeah, I decided to change up the format of how I'm doing stuff because I'm like, yeah, it's not great to talk about a movie that you really enjoy and talk about it scene for scene, because I had constructive criticism from one of my friends / coworkers where he goes like, instead of talking about the movie verbatim of what happens,
right,
because literally if I want to just go and watch the movie, I'll just go and watch the movie.
Right.
I was like, yeah, I get that. So I had changed that a little bit. So now it's just favorite bits about the movies.
Well, I mean, there's those podcasts like The Office Ladies or the Scrubs Rewatch podcast where they're talking about TV shows.
Right.
So a 25-minute episode, you can kind of talk it beat to beat, but
yeah,
an almost 2-hour movie like Street Fighter gets pretty extensive and kind of spoils the entirety of the movie.
Right.
Just verbatim, scene for scene, going through it all.
Yeah, because like I follow a movie which I've definitely talked about on this called Bad Movies Rule, where that's what they do. They talk about it from scene for scene, beginning to end, and then they talk about their consensus on whether it be a good movie, bad movie, or a bad movie that rules.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why that I decided to talk about this, was because that once I watched it, I was all like, this is not the greatest movie that I've ever seen, but it's all like, this is... It just scratches an itch in my brain. I'm just like, it's a bad movie, but it's so good. It's like, so oh my gosh.
Awful 90s action flick era.
Yeah, because, which we'll get into the cast here, and this is one of the reasons why. So we got directed by and written by Stephen A. D'Souza, who's done multiple stuff. I just don't have the list. But we'll get into the cast. We got Jean-Claude Van Damme. So
very non-American playing the very American.
I'm so glad you said that, because I have that in my notes. It's so funny because you got this Belgian guy who is not American whatsoever, who's playing the all-American guile,
guy, right?
Like very military-based character,
flag tattooed on his arm.
Like who's all-American, doesn't like terrorists, doesn't like anything that's not American, that doesn't essentially fit the American way,
right?
Essentially,
dream.
Yeah. And it's all like, he's not racist or anything like that, but he goes like, I respect America, I respect the American way and the American people, and that's what I aspire to protect.
Right.
So, and then we got Raul Julia, who's M. Bison. Great casting by that, because this is actually his last movie.
Yeah, he was really sick during the filming of this.
Yeah, I was doing...
had to, rearrange some of the filming days for him to help him out. Which is really great.
I started doing research a little bit, because I remember when I first watched this movie and listened to that podcast about this, that he was going through cancer and stuff like that. So he's going not just through cancer treatment, but I read online that he died from a stroke, that it wasn't the cancer, and I'm like, could be a possibility.
Yeah.
Stroke could have also been because of the cancer as well.
Cancer. I'm sure it was a combination of the two. Those are very serious issues.
But I think that when it really boils it down, it was like the thing that did him in was the stroke. Yeah. It wasn't the cancer specifically.
Right.
But yeah, R.I.P. to Raul Julia. He was a great guy all the way around, and he was Mr. Adams from the Addams Family movies.
Yep.
So it's just
great
like
in those movies.
And he was so good in other stuff that I haven't really seen or remember him in. And I know that he was in several other movies that I grew up with. I just don't remember off the top of my head.
Right.
So, but then we got Min Na Wen, who is Chun-Li, Damien Chapa as Ken, which I looked up. He didn't really do much after this, I think.
I can see. I mean, he wasn't a terrible actor, but
no,
he just wasn't very prominent in it.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I know like the actors that can't be 1-to-1 for like any cartoon, anime, or like video game adaptation, but give the dude some like longer hair at least.
Yeah, because that was the whole thing with Ken Masters, was that he had long hair.
Right,
he didn't have it. He didn't have it cut or nothing.
Right.
Ryu was the one that had the cut hair.
Yep.
He didn't have it long.
Yeah.
So
I thought the Ryu actor, I'm sure you're gonna name here in a second, but he was really great.
Yeah, because
like his martial arts abilities was awesome.
100%. Because who is Byron Mann, or Maine? It's two N's, so I think it's Man or Maine. And then we got Kylie Minogue, who's Cammy, which I didn't. After watching this again, I didn't recognize her as Cammy at first, because she has on the military uniform,
right.
And then towards the end of the movie is when they all start getting their actual costumes and stuff for the games. I'm just like, okay, now that's Cammy. Now I recognize her.
Right. Well, I always remember her, and I'm sure there's a ton of different costumes. I'm not huge into fighting games, so Street Fighter, of course, but I always remember her in like a green outfit.
Like unitard.
Yeah, instead of like the blue. I still feel like the way it looked, other than the color, was pretty spot on to the character, but it just didn't click in my brain that well. Just the different color of the blue to the green. It's just
right.
Doesn't match to me.
Yeah, because I think that obviously you can't do that in like, what was it, like a PG movie?
Yeah.
I think this is what it was. Having a girl wearing not lacy, but like a pretty skimpy leotard. So
well, especially in the 90s. What did this come out? Mid 90s?
94 actually. 94, so this is 30 years.
Yeah. Oh,
so
wow.
hence the reason why
Good
I'm talking about it this.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but especially back in '94, there's no way they were gonna put her in that kind of costume.
yeah, 100%, because like it was just like too risque and a bunch of that stuff. So it's like, especially it being catered towards like children,
Right.
especially because it's Street Fighter. Everybody's synonymous with it just being a fighting side-scrolling game.
Right.
It's like, that's just what it is. But even then, like, it wasn't as graphic as it is now.
Right.
Like literally, like with boob physics and everything
Stuff
like that.
Dead
It's
or
just
Alive
like
Beach Volleyball Edition.
yeah, it's just like I could play this game with one hand. But should you though?
Right.
I mean, it's out there. It is an option. But no, like definitely for the time, it's like you should probably just have her wear pants and combat boots.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
So, but going on, we got like I said, Byron Mann. Roshan Seth, who is Dalsum, who is one of the scientists that actually work on what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. Blanca. That's who it is. Yeah. So he's one of the scientists that work on Blanca and everything like that. And of course, we'll get to all that stuff. But Andrew Byron Yarsky as Zangief.
Loved in this film.
Yes,
loved, like,
he was so funny in this movie.
his look was great. He's just like this big, beefy, dumb Russian dude.
Yeah, he goes like, "Wait, you got paid?
You got paid?"
Yeah.
Or we'll get to it eventually. But when Chun-Li and all them are sabotaging Bison's
lair,
and they're on the TV, he's like, "Quick, change the channel!"
Yeah. It's just like,
Quick, change the channel.
It's so funny, and especially with I don't remember his name. Here it is. Miguel A. Nunez Jr., who plays his DJ, with his look towards him, he just goes like, "What?"
Right.
So, like, it's so good. Like, the way that he portrayed Zangief in this movie was just hilarious. Just being this big, huge, dumb Russian dude of just like, wait, Bison's a bad guy? You got paid?
You're the bad guys?
Yeah, it's like, how that didn't click for him is beyond me.
Right.
But of course, like, Zangief isn't that smart, especially in the video games, because of course in the games, especially which is fighting games in general, you always have each character has their own specific storyline.
Right.
So it's like, especially in Street Fighter, this is the reason why that I'm in this tournament in the first place, is to basically win a bunch of money or to free my people or whatever it is. And with him just being this big dumb Russian dude, it's just like, yeah, it kind of fits, because like he basically wanted to prove who is the strongest.
Right.
And Bison being the strongest person out there, he goes like, I'm gonna try to beat Bison and see if I'm the strongest.
Yep. He's like,
and then,
Goku, he's just in it for the fight.
Yeah, and then especially for him being in Moscow, Russia, where he was just wrestling grizzly bears all the time, and that's how he became super strong.
Yeah, checks out.
Like,
maybe that's how it became super hairy too.
Right.
Every time he beat a bear, another hair popped out of his chest.
Yeah, right. Because it just gets bigger and bigger. Because like just the design for him, just having this big, huge chest piece motif.
Right.
Like it's just like, how? Like how do you groom that? Like is it just there, or are you just naturally like hairless in those spots? Because I'm like, I'm half Russian myself.
Yeah.
And I can testify, like as Russian men, we're a little hairy. But even for me, like, I didn't start having chest hair up until I was, like, maybe 20.
Right.
So, and it's like, I'm not super hairy or nothing like that, but even growing up, my mom would always tell girlfriends, especially with my wife, she goes, like, look out for his back hair.
Oh, God.
Like, if he gets back hair, just pluck him. Don't shave him, don't buzz him or nothing like that, just pluck him.
Oh,
yeah.
That sounds painful.
But at least for right now, me being 30 by the time this comes out, I have little to no back hair as it is. So
that's because your wife's just plucking them as you're sleeping.
Yeah, right. She's like, It's like, it's like, what was that? It's like nothing.
Just go back to sleep.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you have shows or movies when the wife will hit their husband,
right?
And then they'll like lay back over pretending that they're asleep, and it's just like, the hell just happened? Did you hit me? It's like, what are you talking about?
What?
No,
Oh, no, I just
like,
woke up.
Yeah, it's like, what are you talking about? So, and with that being said, there's a bunch of other people in here. Got a huge cast of players. But enough of the boring talk. Let's get into taglines, and then we'll talk about the movie specifically. So I have taglines. Of course, for those of you that don't know what taglines are, it's basically a thing that's on the poster. It's like a sentence, or even in some cases just a word that will entice you to want to check out the movie, want to, hey, seems kind of interesting, I will want to go and check this out. So they have a bunch of them here. It has the ultimate battle, and I don't even remember what it says on my steelbook. And adventure is the name of the game, which this isn't really an adventure.
Well,
really.
It doesn't even make sense. The game's name is Street Fighter.
Yeah,
like the movie.
It's a fighting
not called
game.
Adventure. That's a different game.
Yeah, it's like it's not. God, now I can't even think of an adventure game off the top of my head. Uncharted, that's what I was trying to think of.
There you go.
Like, that's an adventure game.
Yeah.
Or Tomb Raider. Like, those are adventure games.
Right.
Because you're out in different places and you're checking stuff out and you're going through the level and everything. This is Street Fighter. Yeah. It's just two characters fighting on the street in multiple different parts of the world. Exactly. Like, that's all it is. So, it's like... I guess this movie is kind of an adventure because they go to different locations, they do different things. So it's
There's
like
an argument in there, but I don't think it's a very strong one.
No, like why they chose like adventure is the name of the game. It's like it's not
just because they travel. Yeah,
yeah.
Arguably, any movie that takes place in multiple locations could be an adventure.
Yeah,
I had an adventurous day. I had to drive from my house to your house.
Yeah, it's like that's an adventure.
Ooh, what an adventure!
I know, right? Did you encounter any lions or tigers or bears?
Oh my.
And then we got the ultimate challenge begins this Christmas in theaters everywhere. Which I didn't even know this came out at Christmas until I just read this.
That's a
that is
coincidence.
It is perfect for this. Oh my gosh, the timing cannot be any more perfect. And then we got another one to the fight to save the world begins December 25th or December 23rd, 94. So that's when the movie came out, I would assume. So it's around Christmas, not specifically on Christmas Day, but
it was in theaters on Christmas Day.
Yeah. Like specifically on Christmas Day, but it come out on Christmas.
Right.
And then get ready for the ultimate street fight. It's like that one's good.
Yeah.
That's a good tagline.
That's pretty solid.
Because like again, this is Street Fighter. Two people fighting on the street.
Right.
Of course, that's not how the movie conveys it because you have to have a little more story to it instead of just like having two people just fight on the street
and getting in a fight. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
there are some fights in streets, but
yeah, because even they made not a sequel, but they made another Street Fighter movie called Chun-Li.
Yeah, I remember watching that when it first came out.
And so that movie focused more on Chun-Li and her storyline of her being a detective, because that's who she is. She's a detective.
Right.
And then she gets into the world tournament to try to take down M. Bison because of his tyranny trying to take over the world.
Right.
And so like she, of course, didn't like that. Neither does Guile. So they all team up to try to like fight him.
Yeah. And I don't recall if that is really linked to this one. I don't believe so.
It's not because in this one she's a reporter.
Yeah.
She's not a detective.
She's like a
ninja
cop. Reporter.
Yeah. So, and then this Christmas, shop early. The streets won't be safe. Which I would have to say, because of Bison, streets aren't really that safe.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I also wish I would have seen that tagline a couple weeks ago. I'm still not done with my Christmas shopping, and it's already the 21st.
Yeah. And I'm not done myself. We got to go do a couple more Christmas shopping for a few other people, but otherwise the big stuff is pretty much done and taken care of.
Yeah.
So
that's
got
good.
My mother-in-law, sister-in-law, kind of sister-in-law. So, but yeah, got some more Christmas shopping to do. But the ultimate battle is about to begin, and I would say that's true because the ultimate battle is taken against Bison.
Yeah.
So. We got the problem and then the solution. I would assume that there was like character posters that came out.
I'm sure the problem was probably Bison. The solution was the very non-American Guile.
Yeah. So, and then the fight to save the world is on. And yeah, like some of these taglines pretty much fit the bill for it of like the fight to save the world is on, which of course it is because of course Bison trying to take over the world.
Right.
And all of these characters coming together by the end of the movie and trying to take down Bison and his goons, trying to save it and all that stuff.
I feel like a lot of these taglines, they just saw the word street and the word fighter and then just instantly had 3 ideas that they put on paper and that's what they stuck with.
Yeah, 100%.
They couldn't shop them around at all.
Yeah, because like the fact that one of them was like, oh yeah, the ultimate adventure begins. It's like, again, this is not an adventure movie.
Right.
Or an adventure game. So it's like, sure, you know, you can argue that it is an adventure because of the fact that, you know, you have all these people that are in different locations, that they all meet each other at some point throughout the movie, and then they all come together by the end of it to defeat the bad guy.
Right.
And it's like, you know, that is an adventure, but even in the games, it's like, it's not really an adventure. It's more like a story-driven street fighting game.
Right.
So, but let's get into the movie here.
It's showtime.
Okay, let's go.
We already talked about, which I had in my notes, Raul Julia being his last role, and then Jean-Claude Van Damme, who is Belgium, being the all-American Colonel Guile, and stuff like that. But
it seems like he's the most like famous man on Earth too in this movie.
Yes, and especially in like the late '80s, early '90s to mid '90s, he was the big, huge name going around.
Yeah, he was
like,
a huge action star. Up there with like Sly and Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, because he was supposed to be in Predator. He was supposed to be the Predator in the movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So and then
wasn't it like his height though, or the costume didn't fit him?
No, it was the fact that, if I remember correctly, that was his first ever role that he was going to do, because he never done anything before that, and so like this is his big break to be in, I would assume, American movies,
right?
And I think that there was like a complication. Yeah, there was like a complication with him and like the director and stuff like that, so he got booted off.
Gotcha.
And then they had to get somebody else. And coincidentally, the guy, I don't remember any of these people's names, but like the director was getting in contact with another director. I can't remember. I think it was Carpenter that he got a hold of, because of course Carpenter was like the big, huge monster movie kind of guy because of The Thing.
Guy, yeah.
So he goes like, "Hey, like I need a design for an alien creature," and so he was sitting next to, I think it was like the designer. If not, it was like the guy that did the Predator, like the actual like guy. And which of course you guys can let me know in the comment section below if any of this is right or wrong, because again, I haven't seen it in forever. I've heard multiple podcasts talking about this, but I just don't remember. But he was like talking to the guy over the phone, and he was like, "Okay, like let me try to think of some stuff." And the guy who's sitting next to Carpenter was just like, "Hey, I actually like do movies myself. You know, like, do you need some help?" And he goes like, "Yeah, I need this design for a friend for an alien movie." I was like, "All right." And so he's like drawing up the design and stuff like that. And he goes like, "Well, what is the movie about?" And he goes like, "Well, I can't give out too many details, but he basically hunts." Right. He was like, "All right." So he starts making the design and stuff like that. And he goes like, "You know what would be cool if he had these tendrils coming out of his mouth, because I've never seen that in an alien. I think that'd be really cool."
Yeah, that's pretty gnarly.
And that's what gave him the famous like tendrils mouth that we see in the movies from now and stuff like that. So that was actually really interesting to actually like hear that story and how that actually came about. But yeah, like I said, he got booted off the movie, and then he just went on doing his own thing. But yeah, no, he was a big, huge action martial arts movie star.
Oh yeah.
And just like with every, I would assume, decade, that you just have somebody that's always in stuff going forward.
Yeah, he's in a new movie like every other week, and then what, like 10, 15 years ago, he was like in a reality TV show.
Yeah.
That's how far his star dropped, unfortunately.
Yeah, because I know that on Prime he has his own show where it's called Jean-Claude Van Damme, but he's not Jean-Claude Van Damme specifically. He's like Jean-Claude Van Johnson.
Oh, it's kind of like a fictionalized version of him, loosely based on him.
So it's like these action movies, because it's still Jean-Claude Van Damme, and he's playing himself.
Right.
And this is real world stuff.
Right.
But then, of course, you have like the not so realistic side to him, where he's actually a secret agent. So I haven't seen it. I need to check it out just because I love GCVD myself.
Yeah.
But for that, it's like he's still Jean-Claude Van Damme, but he goes by Jean-Claude Van Johnson. And then he's a secret agent, and he goes around the world like saving people and stuff like that, or whatever that he does. And it's just like, that's cool. And I'm pretty sure you think yourself as a secret agent, but it's like you need to also base it more in reality. A little bit. But continue on with the movie. But some things that I wanted to point out, like They're like something that I noticed was like sometimes when the characters are fighting like goons or each other, they will do their big moves that is in the game.
Oh, really?
So like towards the end of the movie where Ken and Ryu, they're fighting random goons at Bison's base.
Yeah.
Oh no, they're fighting Sagat and what's his name?
Claw guy.
Yeah, the Claw.
Yeah. I forget what his name is.
I have it here. Vega.
Vega.
That's what it is. Yeah. So they're fighting Sagat and Vega in the locker room, and so like they're doing their moves. Like Ryu does his Hadouken.
Does he?
Yeah, but he doesn't. But he doesn't say it. He just does the move.
Just does the just like.
So, but it's like a pushing move. So it's not really like him fighting a fireball at him.
You see, that's something I wanted to bring up. Like, just throwing that effect. I know this was very grounded in reality, but I mean, look at like Blanca. He goes from a human to some weird green dude.
Like scientific
hair.
experiment that his skin is green and his hair is orange now because he was infected with these. Pretty much like we'll just like call it like superhuman syndrome.
Yeah,
like,
mutagen.
Yeah,
literally says on one of the bags.
Yeah.
But the Hadouken, like even like I don't know, like an electrical box goes off or something, and then he like pushes or hits them, and like, sparks come out. Just something to kind of base it in reality a little bit more.
Yeah, because like that would have been cool, but of course like. For the time, I don't know if they could like do that in special effects or anything like that, or just like
Mortal Kombat was like right around this time too, and they were doing stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
Scorpion had his little claw thing. Sub-Zero was freezing people.
Yeah, and then even with Lizard coming out.
Yeah.
So
Reptile.
Yeah, Reptile.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they could have done it. It would have looked really cheesy back then, and still to this day. But just give me a little bit something.
Yeah.
Or Ken's what is it? The Hadouken, his uppercut fireball thing.
Yeah.
There's sparks and fire going on all over the place at the end of this movie. Could have easily done something.
Oh, 100%.
Grabbed a stick that's on fire or something, just like bah.
Yeah, it's like you could have done at least a little bit of more traditionally like their fighting moves in that. So, but yeah, I really appreciated them doing that, and of course, like Guile doing his moves while he's fighting Bison at the end of the movie, and then Bison doing his flying moves and his electrical abilities and stuff like that. So, that was like really cool to see, because like you could have done something like that, because like even in that point of the movie, which we'll get to, but it's just like Bison like becomes back alive, and then he's encapsulated with electricity, and then he uses it to like shock Guile.
Yeah, so exactly. They were doing some stuff, just not all the things that the fans wanted. Yeah,
because I mean, like especially for this, it's like it's a mid movie for most people. Like there's not really that much of a drive for this, but even in that kind of an instance where you don't have the fan base that's going like, dude, like Street Fighter is awesome, so like check out this '94 movie that came out with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia and stuff like that. But even with that sort of thing, like nobody's really going on the horn and going like, we didn't make a Street Fighter movie,
right?
Like,
I think some of the animated ones are really good, and I think that's where they really like thrive. But
100%, because you still have that art style to it, to where it's like the games and stuff. Yeah. So
there have been some pretty good fan-made Street Fighter little shorts as well, but those really center around like Ken and Ryu. Yeah. And I think that's where like again Street Fighter really like thrives when it's like those characters. I know Jean-Claude Van Damme was like the big thing back in the mid '90s, especially. So they wanted him to be the big star, and of course Guile was like the all-American dude, and it's an American production, so they wanted to go that route. But when you bring in characters like Chun-Li, Ken, Ryu, that's where like Street Fighter really thrives. Just their stories are so much deeper too. Yeah. Other than this just all American military dude. Yeah. Kinda one note, I guess.
Yeah. Because like I also appreciated that they got everybody's ethnicity throughout the board. Because like M. Bison is not a white guy. Right. Guile is a white dude. He's the all-American colonel. But then you got Ryu, who's not white again, but Ken is, and he's an American, but they're just like friends because they were training under the same master in the same dojo and stuff, so they all have the same moves. So, and you have all these bunch of people that are around the world, like Chun-Li is Asian, so, and I think that she's Asian American because like she was in America and stuff like that. But yeah, like you got all these different people from around the world. So I appreciate, especially for the time where they had all these different actors and actresses that are of those ethnicities to a certain extent that they can get.
Yeah.
So, like,
well, I mean, that's still like a major problem in Hollywood today. Like, look at Ghost in the Shell. They just completely whitewashed an Asian character.
Yeah.
With Scarlett Johansson.
Right.
So for this movie to be like that progressive by casting people with all the different ethnicities that matched up to their games, so who the characters are, it's really refreshing to see.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, because not to go off on a tangent or an argument about Ghost of the Shell, like not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I remember seeing these videos of this person or like this news media outlet or whatever where they went to Japan and they go like, hey, like, what do you think about like this person being casted as Ghost of the Shell? So Scarlett Johansson. They're like, oh, I love her.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
Stuff
and
too.
so, but yet, like, then there was also the duality of that where they were doing the same thing for Americans.
Right.
They were like, what do you think about Scarlett Johansson being in Ghost in the Shell? And everybody that knew about Ghost in the Shell, of it being an anime and stuff, they're like, they should have picked somebody that was Japanese because that would have been a little bit better instead of having like a white
More
person
authentic.
doing this.
Yeah.
So and it's like, yes, this is true, but for those that have seen it, like, know that the reason why it's Ghost in the Shell is because that it's not really her.
Right.
She is Asian, but just her consciousness being in this basically in a shell,
right,
where she's able to control it because it's robotic and stuff like that to a certain extent. It's like a cybernetic, synthetic person, where she's taking control of it, and it's just like, you know, it could have been a black man. So, like, it doesn't have to be specifically a white woman, but that's just how they have it in the anime. But, you know, that's just how it is. But, you know, again, not going off into a tangent or an argument or nothing like that, but it's just like, most people don't know about that sort of conveying argument for that kind of thing.
Right.
I do agree, like, having a big name actor in your movie will drive it towards audiences.
Yeah, and that's definitely a big reason why they did it.
Yeah.
Now, I honestly have never seen that movie. It was just an example that came to mind.
Right, for sure. Because, like, it was an okay movie for what they were trying to convey and everything like that, but definitely it wasn't that good of a movie. And I've talked about this before on the podcast where I've went to movies, especially just in theaters in general, and having this big expectation to being like, oh man, this is going to be great. And I watch it and I'm like, yeah, this was actually pretty good.
Right.
And then I watch it later on and it's like, this movie wasn't actually that good.
Right.
Like, why did I think this movie was actually like the best ever?
Well, especially when you go to theater and there's a lot of other people in the theater. It's kind of like that.
And there's
that
a lot of
crowd
hype behind
mentality.
it. Yeah.
It's the same thing like at all the Comic-Cons and stuff. When they announce like big new movies and show like little teaser trailers and everyone reacts like, this is the greatest thing of all time. And then they get home after thinking about it for a week, kind of like,
and like they
by
see
themselves.
new stuff come out.
Right.
Yeah.
You see the trailer again, they're like, oh, that's actually pretty terrible.
Yeah. It's all like,
I
why
was
did I
brainwashed.
think? Yeah. It's like, why did I think this was good? But I often say it's also like time and setting.
Yeah.
So
100%.
like, you know, if you're in a bad mood and, you know, like you're watching a movie, especially like a comedy, you're not going to think it's funny.
Yeah.
Because you're in such a bad mood. You got stress coming around and, you know, like your head's just whatever. But even for that, it's like, you know, time and setting is always abundant.
100%.
So it's like, you know, if you want to watch a cozy little movie, you can, like, especially around this time being Christmas, it's like, you know, you can put on a happy Christmas movie. It's like, sure, you can do that. You can feel the warm fuzzies. You can have a blanket on and, you know, like, lay in bed and stuff like that. So,
watching your house burn down, eating popcorn.
Right.
Oh, wait, no.
Not the house burning.
Fireplace.
Yeah,
not
fireplace.
House burning down.
Yeah.
Fireplace.
Yeah.
That's how things are done.
That's a little too warm. But having time and setting is definitely very abundant for that kind of thing. Because, you know, especially what you talked about, having newer movies coming out, and it's like, you know, you have all these people that are around you, especially like, you know, a Marvel movie or a superhero movie of some kind. Like, it's definitely having that atmosphere of going like, you know, you can feel it in the air of how electric it is, of going like, everybody's super excited about this. We can't wait for what's going to happen, what we're going to see. And we're sharing this experience together to where after that hype and that buildup finally comes down, and then it's like you watch it again later on, and it's just like, this wasn't as good as I remember it being.
Right.
So, and especially with you with this movie, you're like, I forgot how good this movie was actually.
Honestly, I just like, there's so many people that bash on this movie, and yeah, it's not revolutionary or anything like that. It's a very cheesy mid-90s action flick, but if you like those kind of movies, then you're probably going to have a good time with this.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, I definitely did.
Yeah.
It falls apart a little bit at the end.
Yeah.
There's so much chaos going, the story gets thrown out the window completely.
Oh,
but
100%.
yeah, it's a great adventure.
Yeah, it's a great adventure. Adventure begins now.
On the street, there are fights.
Yeah. You know, you have the problem, and then you have the solution. So, we're going to see what happens on December 23rd of 94.
Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah. Or Uncharted. But speaking of, we'll get into the movie here. So, originally, just going off of the basis of essentially what's going on in the movie is that you have M. Bison who's trying to take over the world. You've got Guile, who is in control of this big, huge worldwide military unit who is trying to take him down. And then you've got all these other players that come into the scene with Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, a bunch of other characters.
They all have like really crazy like reasons for being there too. Like Ken and Ryu are like
they're small arms dealers and stuff like dealers,
that. So, Chun-Li and her buddies, they're like reporters.
Yeah, they're reporters
really like a ninja.
For that. Yeah. So, and like, which I have a list of like the characters here, but like, you know, you got Zangief, who's of course a bad guy, and then you got Balrog, who's the boxer dude. That's kind of like Mike Tyson,
right?
Or George
Foreman.
Yeah, I was gonna say George Mayweather, but yeah, George Foreman and Blanca and stuff like that. So it's like, oh, and E Honda too, and stuff like that, because I forgot that he was also in this movie specifically. But yeah, like you have E Honda and you got Balrog and you've got Chun-Li, who are news people that they're getting the story and putting it around the world and stuff like that. But you know, and then of course they fall into it because they're following the story and they want to stop him as much as anybody else does.
Right.
So because later on in the movie we find out that Chun-Li, which we'll get to one of my favorite quotes in the movie for this moment, but finds out that Bison came to her village, killed her family, and like decimated her village, and she vowed to take revenge.
Right.
And that's how she comes into this.
Bison, it was a Tuesday.
Yeah.
It was Tuesday.
And of course, you got Cammy, who's with Guile, who's just like his right hand woman.
Right.
So, but yeah, and that's basically the whole consensus of the movie is that like you got all of these other characters that are doing their own bits, like Sagat, and God, I'm drawing a blank on his name again.
E Honda.
No, not E Honda.
Oh, Vega.
Yeah, Vega.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just know him as the face.
Yeah.
Like the super prettiest man in the movie, quote unquote, prettiest man in the movie. Who's, I would admit, is very handsome, but not to the extent of how Vega actually is. So, but yeah, otherwise, like, you know, you have all these different characters that come together at the end and just doing all that stuff. But that's basically the whole movie in a chestnut, is that Bison is trying to terrorize the world, trying to basically get the world's leaders to bow down before him so that he can take control over it. Guile is trying to prevent this from happening, and hilarity ensues.
Of course,
so,
you're right.
But, and speaking of hilarity, I wrote down on my notes that Guile hits him with the move at Bison because Chun-Li, because Bison watches the television all the time, every day, and Chun-Li is all like, hey, I'm here to talk with Guile. And so Guile goes like, oh, Bison, I know that you're watching this, you sick son of a bitch. He goes like, how about this? And he goes like, ah! And I'm just like, what is that?
So look at this.
And I'm like, are you flipping him off? Like,
Yeah.
what is that?
That's
I'm
how
like,
you
that's
flip off?
basically,
Yeah.
but he's doing it like to the side of the camera, and he's not directly doing it to the camera.
Right, no, he's literally just
but that's
flexing on
his
him.
move. And like, that's what he does in the
That's
video game. It's
right.
like, he just goes like,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's just like, I don't know what that's supposed to be, but I just laughed my ass off when I saw that. And then
Right.
Bison, of course, gets pissed off and just goes like, you know what? hack into the communications. I'm going to talk to Guile right now. And then Guile's just like, hey, he's taking the bait. Go ahead and track this message. So, but yeah, and then that pushes everything forward because then Bison goes like, oh, you think that you're so smart. You know, I know that you're tracking this. And you're like, if you want to come get me, come get me.
Right.
And all that bunch of stuff. And then pushing forward, we got where we're introduced to Ryu and Ken meeting Sagat for the first time, and his minions and stuff like that. And Ryu and Ken tell him that like, oh, don't you know that there's a curfew out? He goes like, oh, like because Sagat is controlling over this area wherever that they're at.
Yeah.
And he goes like, oh, like, no, there's no curfew. Like, if they did, they would have told me about it. But even then, I have control over this anyway.
Right.
And then, like, overhead, there's a helicopter that goes like, hey, there's a curfew in progress around 7 o'clock, so if you're out and about, you will be shot.
Right.
It's just like, okay. Like, he takes a second of a pause and he goes like, anyway, let's go and take out your arms that you brought me.
No one heard that giant helicopter, right? Okay, let's move forward.
It's all like, we got to push the plot, so.
Right.
Didn't anyone tell you there's a curfew?
In Shadaloo City, no one tells me anything.
There is a 7 p.m. curfew in Shadaloo City. Violators will be shot on sight.
I thought that was funny that he paused for a second while that was going on, and it's just like, the comedic timing of this could not be any better.
Right.
It's just like, no, he told me about a curfew, and then overhead you just hear, hey, there's a curfew, and it's all like,
everybody get to the houses by 7 p.m. Thank you, please.
Yeah, and it's just like, anyway, going along. So
about those guns.
Yeah, and then I think that was even funny when he goes like, all right, so show me what you brought today, and he goes like, Ryu and Ken are very crafty when it comes to this sort of thing. They're like, well, you didn't think that we'd bring the guns with us, did you? Like, we got it at a secret location. So we wanted your money, and then we'll take you to the location.
Right.
And because that's all that they want to do. Very different from the game. Because in the game, they're noble fighters. They're not arms dealers. But, you know, you have to have these people meet and why that they're doing this and everything like that. Because originally, Ryu and Ken, like I mentioned earlier, they are for the same dojo, and then their master gets killed by Sagat, and then so they go after Sagat for revenge, and everything like that. And so they find out that Sagat is actually in the world tournament, and so they go to fight him along with Goku and Chi-Chi and Yamcha and Krillin.
23rd World Martial Arts Tournament.
So, and they did that, and then now you have them as arms dealers, as well as Sagat, who's like an arms dealer himself that's going to basically weaponize whoever that is selling or whoever's buying their
he
weapons.
Doesn't really care who the seller or who the buyer is. He just wants the money.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then you got that, and he goes like, "Oh, do you mean these weapons?" And his men bring in these giant crates, and so they're just like, all right, let's test these out. And so, like, they shoot them, but they're just like Nerf guns where they're just shooting rubber balls at them. It was so funny. And then, like, especially when they're all fighting with each other, where Ken is fighting one of the bad guys and they're on the ground, and then the bad guy grabs the gun and just shoots him. And he goes like, oh, no. And so he just kicks the shit out of him. It's so funny. Before any of that stuff happens, Sagat goes like, can I offer you gentlemen anything, like drinks or girls or both and stuff like that. And so like the girls like come in from like the bead curtain, and so like they're like, oh hey, what's going on, guys?
Hi, we're the girls.
And like they don't say a word, but they're just like, hey, we're here too, like we're very beautiful and luscious and whatever. And it's just like, and then they're like, we're not here to have drinks or like chat it up with the girls or anything like that. And so they get so disappointed. They're just like, oh man, and then they just walk away. And I'm just like, that was funny too. They're just like,
just the looks on their faces like, what?
Yeah, they're just like, oh man, like we just got dolled up, we got pretty and everything for nothing. Man, this sucks.
I put on my high heels for this.
But yeah, then I also had that written down, like the guy shoots Ken with a toy gun and stuff like that. But and then we got to them being captured, and then where Ryu fights Vega for the first time, and Vega takes off his mask, and the fact that the whole crowd is just like, Vega, Vega, just like they love Vega. And then you've got Ryu, who's we haven't seen fight before, and one of like the basically showgirls comes over with the sword, and so like he does like his whole moves and stuff like that with the sword, and now everybody's like, oh man, this guy's actually pretty good. Like then they start going like,
sword around.
Yeah, and so like then he throws it at Vega, and of course purposefully misses. He hits the ward that's behind him, and so he gets pissed off and goes to take his glove again, and then he looks at Sagat, and then just like Sagat's just standing there staring at him, and he just goes like, you know what? No, I don't need my weapon. So he pushes it away, and then he throws his hand up like he does in the game.
Right.
And then while in the fight, people aren't shouting Vega anymore. Now they're actually going for Ryu, especially with the old lady who has a sign of Vega. She rips it in half, and he's always like, "What?" Like he has a shocked look on his face. That was hilarious. And then right when they're about to fight, like, then, Guile comes in with his troops. He bashes through a wall, and he goes like, "You all are under arrest." Right. So
it's actually past 7, so you're coming with me.
Yeah. Well, it's not even that. It's like illegal fighting and stuff like that. But like, I would assume that they were trying to catch Sagat in the first place anyway, too, because he's an arms dealer and stuff. So, but later on, after they finally escape and everything like that, because Ryu and Ken, they get arrested, and they're just like, okay, well, you know, like we're in this shitty situation. What can we do about it? And eventually, it gets to the point to where, like Guile basically has them to be like, hey, I know that you guys are good guys, otherwise you wouldn't be here right now. Otherwise, you know, like we wouldn't be having this conversation, essentially. And so he goes like, I want you guys to get in bed with Sagat so that way we can take him down, because he's going to lead you to Bison, and I want to get to Bison.
Right.
And so they're like, all right, like what should we do? And behind the scenes they talk about, well, you're going to shoot and kill me, and that way Bison lowers his guard, saying that, you know, like, I'm dead, so that's our in to get into Bison's lair and find out where he's at and how to take him down. And so they go to this, it's kind of like a convention sort of thing, to where you've got these warlords that are taking like selling helicopters and nukes and all this and missiles and stuff. So it's all like, you know, I wrote down that, you know, like it's Shadaloo is what it was. And so, you know, you got these arms dealers that are just selling all this bunch of weaponry to like people that'll buy them to basically like take control over whatever area that they want to. And then we've got Chun-Li and her guys, Balrog and E Honda, where they're trying to find out where Bison is as well.
Right.
And so like this is their in, because they saw Ryu and Ken, and they're trying to also find out where Bison is as well. And love the fact that when Balrog puts Chun-Li in the barrel, the barrel lid has Capcom written on it.
Oh, does it? I completely missed that.
Yeah, I was just like, oh man, that's a really cool detail that they put in there, because of course it being a Capcom series, like of course it's like you got to throw a little nod in there of Capcom and stuff.
Can't just have them in the credits alone. You got to throw them in the actual movie. Yeah.
And then with Sagat and Bison meeting together and talking about like, well, you know, like this is what I want to do, and so Sagat goes like, well, why should I partner with you? And he goes like, if you agree to do this and you agree to help me, I will have you take whatever part of the world that you want, and that's yours. And he goes like, okay, well, what about the money? And he goes like, all right. So he goes like, yes, I have your money. It's right here. And which I also have, a Bison dollar, because this is what came with my steelbook here, is a free Bison dollar.
Woo.
So, and he goes like, Sagat's pissed off at him, and he just goes like, what the hell is this? And so he just goes like, this isn't even worth the money that's printed on. Just goes like, well, no, it's actually going to be 6 times the amount after I take control of the money situation from the Queen in England.
Yep, Bison's got it all plotted out.
Yeah,
all
so
out.
oh, got a cat trying to get on my lap here, but it was just so funny because he just goes like, this isn't worth the money it's printed on.
Right.
And he's just like, or the paper it's printed on. And he just goes like, but you see, it's going to be 6 times the amount of pounds in England.
Right.
After I have the Queen bow down before me and give me control. And it's all like, he has this great lavish plan to just like take control over the world. Step-by-step process.
Right, exactly.
So, and, but yeah, I thought that was hilarious. And then later on, Chun-Li and her guys, they go away. And she goes like, hey, like, this is Chun-Li. I'm actually going to try to take you guys down and everything. And
playing on the TV.
Yeah, playing on the TV. And so, like, because Ryu and Ken, they're saying, like, we're trying to double cross Sagat and Bison and stuff. So we're trying to just get this situation.
Bison's crew.
Yeah, and Sagat's crew. Because now they're divided, so they're like trying to fight each other. And so they're like, hey guys, why don't we all just come together and like, try to love each other and everything like that. And so then you just hear Chun-Li where she's saying like, hey Bison, like, I know where you guys are and blah blah blah. And so like, hopefully you guys got insurance.
Yeah, and she's got like their weapon stash.
Yeah, their weapon stash in a truck, and they're going to push it downhill into the tent that they're at.
Yeah. And
then it's showing that, it's so, like we mentioned before, when Zangief just goes like, quick, change the channel. It's just so dumb.
Quick, change the channel.
That was one of my favorite bits.
That moment, that's when I realized I loved the portrayal of Zangief.
And then, again, with DJ, he just looks at him and goes like, what? Like, are you stupid? Right. And it's just like, he is very stupid.
He is very stupid.
And
he's good at fighting bears, though.
Yeah, he's good at grappling bears and wrestling and stuff. Like, I loved when the new Street Fighter came out, Street Fighter 6, where your character goes to Zangief. And he's teaching you how to train and stuff like that. And so, like, there's this cinematic thing where he's like doing these one-legged squat dips with lifting dumbbells and doing dumbbell curls and alternating that at the same time. So he's not just like doing it just at the same time. He's alternating arms and doing this. And he's also got one leg sticking out, like the opposite leg sticking out. And then he will also jump and switch legs too in between. So it's all like, how is he doing this? And like so he's training your character on how to do this so that you could be all big and strong and stuff.
As he is, yeah.
So, and it's just like, what the hell? I'm like, that's hard and difficult.
Yeah.
And I think
I'm exhausted just listening to that.
Yeah, it's just like, I picture myself going to the gym and my muscles already hurt. So it's just like, all I do is just pick up a pencil and I'm already tired.
Right. So, I rolled out of bed immediately tired.
Yeah, it's like, I should probably just go back to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we cut to Ryu and all of them at Bison's lair. And so Zangief is showing Ryu and Ken the training room and the locker room and stuff like that. And so the fact that they're just walking around going like, hey, how's it going? He goes like, hey, I like your outfit.
I like your outfit,
and then they're all like, hey, go Bison and stuff like that. And
we're part of the team now.
Yeah, because like, and it's funny because it's kind of like an echo effect where it's like Ken's all like, hey, like, hail Bison. And he goes like, yep, Bison. Like, with Ryu. And the fact that Zangief goes like, hey, I'll meet you guys in the mess hall. Like, I'm hungry right now, so I'll meet you guys over there. And so he does the sideways thumbs up. And so they also do it, and then they turn around, and then they go like, what? So, and then they're like, whatever, forget it.
I see you later in the commissary, huh?
But cutting way forward after that, the fact that this is my favorite part of this whole movie and my favorite quote, where it's like Colonel Guile, they find out that they haven't found out that Colonel Guile is alive yet, because he's about to like start the storm of troops to go towards Bison's lair because they find out where it's at. And basically like the senator comes to basically tell Guile, like, you know, like
have
your troops go home, pack it up and whatever.
Paying off Bison.
Yeah, like we're paying off Bison and stuff like that. And so because I think he wanted like $6 billion or something like that from
million or
because
right.
They have hostages in his lair of like men, women, and children, as well as like some of their soldiers and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why Guile wants to also go there, because they have Blanca, who at all of this time is being put under mind control to basically be his servant, to be his first super soldier.
He's Guile's best buddy, like Charlie or whatever his name is.
Yeah, his name's Charlie.
Which at the beginning of the film, when he's talking to Bison to Chun-Li's news report, he's like, "We're coming, Charlie.
We're coming to save you.
Why
Don't
would you
worry."
throw your buddy under the bus? I was just gonna say,
like, why would you, like, even in any realistic situation, you never point out specific people,
right?
Because the person that is in charge of that situation, which you are not, you're going to basically have them get killed,
right? Exactly,
or tortured or whatever,
just exploited for their nefarious means. Which is obviously not going to help you out.
Yeah, and of course, my cat, Okabe, wants to chime in on Street Fighter as well. But yeah, and I have all of this written down where it's like, Colonel Guile just basically tells the senator, like, have you guys lost, like, he asks him, like, have you lost your mind? And no, the senator says, like, have you lost your mind? And he goes like, no, you lost your balls.
Colonel, have you lost your mind?
No. You've lost your balls.
Yeah, right.
So,
you lost your balls.
But it's also funny because he does not have an American accent. So you kind of still has his accent still bleeding through, like, throughout the whole movie.
I also feel like a lot of this was, like, re-recorded, too.
Yeah, it was, like, ADR.
ADR, yeah.
So,
it just doesn't seem like it's, like, the live on-set audio for Guile specifically.
Which, it's so funny because, like, the reason why I got turned on to this movie in the first place was because of Game Grumps. If you guys don't know about Game Grumps, check them out. They're super funny. They play games, and they just, like, are comedians, and they're super hilarious. But I was watching one of their Mario Maker 2 videos, like, forever ago, and Aaron, who's one of the guys, tells Dan about, like, something about, like, one of the verses in this huge monologue that Guile does, and he's, like, talking about how, like, oh yeah, like, it seems like that it's ADR'd at some points, because, like, you hear him going like, troopers, I received new orders, our superiors, like, you know, having that sort of thing. It's all like, you know, it seems like that it's not actually him talking. It's like overlaid with other audio of him talking.
100%.
So
yeah, there was a lot of redubbing, re-editing, manipulation.
Just for him in general, like, because
the entire movie, front to
because end. Like, of course, like we keep saying throughout this whole thing, he's Belgian,
right?
So it's kind of like having Arnold Schwarzenegger playing as an American who's trying to have an American accent.
Yeah. Well,
like
Arnold's very first movie where he played, like, Hercules in New York or something like that. It was, like, literally all his dialogue was
just dubbed over
by a completely different person.
Right. So, and it's just like, he can still, like, talk English because, like, you know, of course he speaks English and stuff like that, but he doesn't have an American accent, and he didn't try to at least have it.
Not even a little.
But yeah, like I said, getting to my favorite part of this whole movie is his huge speech that he does. He goes like, troopers, I just received new orders. Our superiors say the war is canceled and we can all go home. Bison is getting paid off for his crimes, and our friends will have died here. Will have died for nothing. But we can all go home. Meanwhile, ideas like peace, freedom, and justice, they get packed up. But we can all go home. Well, I'm not going home. I'm gonna get in my boat, and I'm gonna go up river, and I'm gonna kick that son of a bitch Bison's ass so hard that the next Bison wannabe is gonna feel it. Now, who wants to go home, and who wants to go with me? And it's like, when you hear that, you just get so amped. You're like, yeah, let's go take him down. Hell yeah. Yeah.
And I'm going to kick that son of a bitch Bison's ass so hard that the next Bison wannabe
He's gonna feel it.
So, and then, like, the senator's just like, wait, what? This isn't what we agreed to? And
then doesn't, like, call up his superior, and he's like, he wouldn't listen to me.
Yeah, like, he's on the helicopter, and he just goes, like, you know, oh, like, did I try to stop him? I did, and he agreed, but he's just very powerful. He just didn't listen to what I said.
Right.
And, like, just crying.
Straight up, that guy's like, you're disobeying a direct order. And the guy was like, no, you just fired me. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah. And he goes, like, Kyle, you have to pull back your man. And he goes, like, I would, but somebody just shit-canned me. So, and it's just
not my job anymore.
Yeah. So, and it's just like, you know what? These are free men. They can do whatever they want.
Right.
And I'm just going to go after Bison because I'm a free man. I can do whatever I want. So, and then the other big, huge synonymous quote from the movie is when Bison finds Chun-Li and her guys, and so he's going to have her guys like E Honda and Balrag get tortured, basically. Which it's not really a torture, like not Balrag, but E Honda basically just gets whipped.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because he's supposed to be Japanese and Hawaiian dude is playing him.
Right.
But, I mean, it is what it is. But, like, I still think that he did a great job regardless. But Bison wants Chun-Li to basically get dressed and meet him in his quarters.
Right.
And so when he finally gets to his quarters in, like, the bedroom and stuff, where Chun-Li is now wearing, like, this sequence dress and, like, Asian style.
Yeah, pretty reminiscent of her actual, like, video game attire.
Yeah, but just being red instead of green.
Yeah, different
or
color.
not green, but blue.
Right.
Yeah. And having the buns and stuff, like, super great.
It's like the
like,
costuming
awesome.
for this movie, looked at the games, like, I love that outfit.
Let's change it a
I
little
hate
bit.
that color.
Yeah, and doing that, but Chun-Li is telling him that, like, oh yeah, you know, like, you came to my village, you killed my father, you basically decimated my whole world, and that's why I vowed to take control. And this whole time while she's saying this, he's, like, changing from his war outfit into kind of like a robe where he still has, like, his tie
like
or whatever.
Military robe.
Yeah, and he switches hats too.
He's just,
it's
like,
the same hat, it's just a different style.
Lustfully.
Yeah, and so he goes, like, I feel sorry for you because, you know, like, your whole life led up to this moment of taking down M. Bison and everything like that. But for you, and I have it written down, it's like, for you, the day Bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
It was Tuesday.
The day Bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
And it's just like, it's such a great line.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't watch this for the action or the seriousness, it's a great movie. Like, it's awesome. And just for those two great quotes right there that we just talked about, it's so good.
Yeah.
Like, that in and of itself should just make the movie in general.
I mean, for as cheesy as most of the dialogue is, there are some, like, buried gems in there. And some genuinely funny moments, too.
Yeah, and I also have written down that, like, Bison is trying to rizz up Chun-Li because, like, you know, that's the reason why that he had her dress in that dress and had her bound and stuff like that, because even for her, she goes, like, oh yeah, like, you know, having people bow down to you and having women bound, where she snaps her bracelets together or separated, and stuff like that. And then throughout this whole movie, you have Blanca, who's, like, being mind controlled and stuff like that. But the scientist is also trying to not do this, because he has one of the soldiers who's, like, looking after him, going like, "What are you doing over here?" And he goes, like, "Nothing. Like, I'm just watching the stuff happen just and whatever.
Checking my numbers."
Yeah,
like, he didn't look very suspicious to me. I don't know why the guard was all of a sudden like, why are you being a scientist?
Like,
why are you sciencing right now?
Yeah, and then especially when he's, like, checking something out, like, he goes to get up.
Yeah.
And then he goes to, like, walk away and he sits back down. I'm just like, yeah, I understand. You're doing your job. But so is the scientist.
Right.
He's doing what Bison told him to do.
Right,
Why are you, like, trying to jump down his throat about this? So, but
did that guy get like special training too to know like what the scientist was supposed to do and what scientist wasn't supposed to do? Like,
yeah, it's like you don't know what he's doing. He's doing science stuff.
Exactly.
Like you're not a scientist.
It's
You don't know
way
what he's
above your
doing.
pay grade.
Yeah, it's like your brain is the size of a walnut. Like all you know is just to look after him and make sure he's doing his job. That's it.
Yep.
Is he not doing his job? He's doing science
Looks
stuff.
like he's sciencing to me.
Yeah, it's like he's a scientist. He does science stuff. It's
Right.
beyond our capability of what he's doing. So she's like, "Are you sciencing right now?" Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Good.
Keep doing science.
Keep sciencing.
And then like one of the also like favorite lines for me is that like, Guile gets on the horn with Bison, and Bison goes like, "Wait, Guile's alive?"
Right.
And the fact that he goes like, "This is the collections agency, Bison. Your ass is 6 months overdue, and it's mine."
It's
and it's just
mine.
like, oh my god, it's hilarious.
Complete side note, but when the big reveal of Guile being alive
Yeah.
happens, so basically Chun-Li's like infiltrating the military base,
Yeah.
like try to figure out where Bison's at, and she goes into the room where Guile's body is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And he's just like laying under a tarp.
Yeah.
But it happened like 6 hours ago, so is he
Right.
just like sleeping? Is he just catching up on some Z's?
Right.
Like, he's literally just been, there's day when he died,
Yeah.
quote unquote, and it's like night when Chun-Li's sneaking in.
Yeah.
So is he seriously just laying there for 6 hours?
Right.
Not like doing his job, not planning, not plotting anything.
Right. Yeah, that's also the other thing too, was like it's very weird because like Chun-Li breaks into the facility to try to get information, and then it's nighttime by the time this stuff happens.
Right.
And then when she finds out that Guile is still alive because he's just laying there, like it's just super bizarre.
So either he's been laying there for 6 hours, or he knew Chun-Li was sneaking in and went back in there and under the tarp.
Yeah, because it wasn't like
had that
at
big
midnight.
reveal.
This might have been maybe like 7, 8 o'clock when the
Right.
sun is
It's
like
dinner
setting.
time.
And then that's when she breaks in, and it's like basically dark by the time that she leaves because like they go like, "Hey, get back here!" Like,
Right.
because she goes like, "Well, I'm trying to take down Bison too because you know like he ruined my life, blah blah." And he goes like, "Well, like arrest her, throw her in the prison, blah blah blah." And he goes like, "Yeah, I'm trying to do that too because
Right.
I'm also trying to get revenge."
Right.
And that's why he's going after Bison and stuff like that. And but of course Chun-Li doesn't know any of this stuff because by the time that he talks about this, she's already like down the hallway.
Right.
And so she breaks away and runs out and jumps through a window and like goes to a rendezvous with E Honda and Balrog and stuff. So
Yeah.
but yeah, we're reaching the end of this movie here, and then one of the things that I also wanted to point out was Bison's like control on his hovercraft thing was also like the arcade like joystick
Yeah.
and buttons.
Yep.
I was just like,
Noticed
that's really
that.
cool. So, and they also made an actual Street Fighter the movie, the game.
Right.
So, and I'm pretty sure they and I think that they had like the console that you would find at the arcade because it's
really?
just like a picture of like just like a map of the world, so
cool.
of like the continents and stuff.
Right.
So and it's just like that's actually a really cool touch that they did.
Yeah.
So because Guile gets in his boat and he's under stealth, and then they jam their stealth technology to where now they're visible, and then Bison is trying to take him out with hitting the mines that are in the river that he's in.
Yep.
So, and like he's hitting the buttons and stuff and moving the joystick around like you would if you were playing
I was
it on
watching
arcade.
that and I was like, how do those controls even work?
Right.
None of this makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
It's
but I'm
definitely
like,
a victim of like the era of the 90s. They just
Yeah.
like
nothing
make
makes sense.
something that looks kind of cool for the time, but
Yeah.
they didn't figure out how any of it works. So
Right. And yeah, and then like we mentioned earlier with the the secretary or the Congress or whoever the guy was that basically fired Guile.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the phone. He goes like, "Madam Secretary, I stopped him from taking the soldiers. They're back at base, Chief." And like, yeah, you know, like I stopped them. Like they're back at their base and stuff. They're packing up right now. And then it cuts to just the empty base with just the chef just stirring a pot.
Not everybody left with him.
Yeah, and so it's just like nobody is there. It's just the chef stirring the pot.
Right. Just chefing away.
Yep, he's making the food, kind of like the scientists doing science stuff. The chef is chefing. So
Chef is chefing. The science is sciencing.
And then And then I have written down, we shall face it together with DJ. And, oh, yeah, it's where Bison is having this big, huge speech. And he goes like, yes, if we're going to face Oblivion, then we're going to do that together because, you know, like, whatever and blah, blah. And then DJ's just walking
DJ's
away.
Like, slowly backing up with, like, the case of money.
Yeah. And, well, he goes to Bison's, like, his bedroom, and then he steals the money from the safe.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not leaving empty-handed. I'm getting me something.
Yeah, and then Guile's, and then Guile finally gets there, and like he's trying to take down all the soldiers because all hell's breaking loose now, and everything. And Guile is confronted with a bunch of soldiers on this catwalk, and he doesn't have any more weapons. Like, he's out of bullets for his gun, so he just pulls out a knife. And then the soldiers start like looking at each other, and they start backing away, and they start getting scared. And he looks at his knife and goes like, oh yeah, huh? He goes like, yeah, I'm a badass. And then all of a sudden behind him there's Cammy with the rest of his soldiers, and they're like, Colonel Guile, like, we're here to help you. And he goes like, oh, and he puts his knife away.
I guess that makes more sense.
Yeah, and he goes like, oh, okay, way to blow the wind out of my sail there. But also one of the things that I wanted to mention was like when Balrag and E Honda, they're being tortured. Well, more specifically, E Honda is just being whipped.
Yeah.
With the huge dude, and he's just like no reaction at all.
Right.
He's just like, and then he whips him a couple more times. He's like picking stuff out of his teeth and stuff. And so the guy goes to
really like mad.
Yeah, and so he just goes like, all right, well, I'll be back to like grab another torture device. So he runs out, and so he's just like, oh man, like this really hurts. And he goes like, how can you take that? And he goes like, I'm Samoan. He goes like, my body will be here, but my mind will be in another place.
Right.
And he goes like, oh, okay. And he literally says that he's Samoan in the movie, and it's just like, but E Honda isn't Samoan in the game. He's Japanese. Right. Like, he's a sumo wrestler.
He's a sumo, yeah.
So, but it is what it is, like I said. But, you know, like, it still works, regardless of the situation. It still works. But, yeah. And then when they all break out with Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, because, like, the Ryu and Ken, they're trying to save them, and so they bust them out of their prisons and stuff.
Finally kicks in.
Yeah, and so they're like, "Wait, we don't want to be bad guys. Like, this is messed up. Like, we want to actually like help people." And even though for Ken wants to basically have money, but Ryu wants to do
get out of there with his own tail,
and
still alive, but
yeah,
Ryu's like, "No, we got to help them. We're here.
Right,
this is our responsibility now."
Yeah, and so when they split up, Ken's trying to find money, and then realizes that Ryu's walking in. He goes like, "Ryu, what are you doing?"
Yeah,
because like he's trying to find a way out of there.
That he runs into, like the entire like
the lair and stuff.
Thank you. Yeah. And he sees what is it Vega or is
he sees Sagat and Vega come through another door that Ryu's going through on the other side,
about to ambush him and try to take him out. And
then Ryu's like, trying to, and then Ken's trying to figure out a way to like tell Ryu like, "Hey, you're being ambushed. Like, get out of there."
Gets on one of those like little like intercom systems, but it's not working.
Yeah, and he can't figure out how to do that to warn Ryu, so he runs down there and stuff.
Right.
And because they try to like free E Honda and Balrag from their dungeon that they're in, and so they're like, "Oh, like look, it's the guys that double crossed us and everything." And so they're like, "No, we're trying to help you. We're on the same side." So like, "Oh, okay." And then that's when they all get together with Chun-Li when she's confronting Bison and stuff, and then they almost take out Bison, but then Bison gets the slip because they're all fighting amongst each other.
Right, they get distracted, so he like goes into like a little closet that seals himself in there safely, and then gas chambers his room essentially to knock all the rest of them out.
Yeah, and of course this could be out of order because I don't remember, because this was about like 2 weeks ago that I watched this. So. But reaching the very end of this here, it's like Zangief and Honda are fighting and stuff like that throughout the whole facility, and Zangief actually rips off his shirt to reveal his chest hair that he has in the game and stuff too. But with that, they're trying to find a way to get out of there. So they're on the monitor, they're trying to find an exit, and earlier in the movie that Bison reveals his huge like thing that he's going to do once he takes control of the world is that he's going to change the Washington D.C. monuments and stuff to where it looks like it's his logo that he has.
Basically, and, Bisonopolis.
Yeah, and so the reason why I mentioned this is because that when E Honda and Zangief are fighting, they find them on the monitor and they find that room, and so like they're just destroying it by them fighting.
It's like an old Godzilla.
Yeah, I was gonna say
where they even like have a Godzilla roar in there for a second. That's like stomping over little miniatures.
Yeah,
of, like Bisonopolis, Bison's
destroyed.
Like, dream like continent or country, whatever.
Yeah, and it's super funny because like you have the old Godzilla noises, the roars, the old song playing in the background too. Yeah. So it's like it's super funny that they threw that in there. And then while they're all now the facility is like exploding because Guile and Bison finally fight off, and Guile finally manages to kill Bison.
Yeah.
But then his suit is also programmed to where if to where if his heartbeat stops, then it's like his suit will resuscitate him and stuff like that. And then that's how he's able to like have the electrical abilities, is because that he gets knocked into a machine and now he has electrical stuff.
It's current flowing through him.
Yeah, and so and again, like I mentioned before, where they're fighting, Guile is throwing these moves at him that he does in the game, like the bicycle. Not the bicycle kick, because that's of course Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat.
Right.
But he's doing the backwards kick that he does, and then he's also hitting him with one of the other moves. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah.
Doesn't he do like a little spinny move from the ground or something?
Yeah, that's what it is. He does the turning, spinning move that he does when he's on the ground.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and then now Bison's dead, and officially he's dead. Now the facility is exploding and stuff. So everybody's trying to make a way for the exit, and they all run past E Honda and Zangief like fighting, and so they're like, E Honda, quit playing around, like we gotta leave.
Right.
And then E Honda looks at Zangief and he just goes like, sorry man, like playtime's over, and he like runs away, and he goes like, Zangief just goes like, hey, get back here and find me, coward.
Right.
And he doesn't realize what's happening around him, but then he meets DJ and he goes like, DJ, like, where are you going, my friend? And he just goes like, dude, I'm getting the hell out of here. Do you not realize this place is about to explode? And he goes like, and then this is the sudden realization that Zangief has is like, you know, yeah, like, you know, Bison's a bad guy. And he goes like, wait, we're the bad guys?
General Bison, he's a bad guy. If you know this, then why do you serve him?
Because he paid me a freaking fortune, you moron.
You got paid?
So, and then they all get out of there and they're all safe, but like they all think that Guile's dead because like he didn't make it out in time, I guess.
Crushed by the falling layer.
Yeah. And so Sagat and DJ, they're out of the facility together, and now Sagat has this this scar going up his chest like he does in the games and stuff, because Ryu and Ken, they were fighting Sagat and Vega, and so like they're throwing their moves and stuff like that in there,
right?
And so that's how but Sagat gets his scars because of the fight.
Yep.
So, and so with that, Sagat goes like, DJ goes like, yeah, like I got paid, I'm gonna go to Jamaica and stuff like that, and like retire and stuff. And he goes like, no, we're going to Jamaica.
Yeah, we're in this now.
Yeah,
together.
And then they finally open up the case, and then it's revealed just to be Bison Bucks.
Right.
And so DJ's crying about it. Sagat is just like all hysterically laughing about it, just like grabbing handfuls and just throwing it to the air and stuff like that. And then they're all like crying about Guile not being there because they think that he's dead. And then he comes out of the smoke, and Cammy, this is the moment that I realized that it's Cammy and stuff, because like they don't mention her by name. like by her last name.
I think so.
Like they never said like General Cammy whatever like last name is, but it was super funny that he comes out of the smoke and he goes like, "Oh, do you think I was dead a second time or whatever?" And so like she was crying, and so he goes like, "Are you okay?" She goes like, "Yeah, like I'm okay." Like I just had something in my eye or something. So and then now the very end of the movie, which we talked about this before, this was just like they're all talking or whatever, and then the building is still exploding, and then like there's a big explosion that happens, and then they all turn around, and then they all hit their action pose like at the end of the game. And it's just like
fade to black, credits,
and then it's just like, what? Like, why did you do the action pose here? It's like, why don't you guys
mid-90s
move over to another facility, like another place? But I'm like, I guess they had certain set pieces that they had to use. They could only use so many and so much runtime that they could do and whatever. But yeah, hitting the action pose, and then that is the end of Street Fighter. And now is when we go through our consensus on whether it being a rent, a buy, or skip. Which earlier is the reason why this is called RBS, and what we think about the movie. So you can go first, or if you'd like, I can go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. I definitely don't think it's a skip. I think you should check this out at the very least. It really depends on, in my opinion, if you're into action flicks first off, and if you enjoy like cheesy films. If you do, then I think it's buy.
Fuck yeah!
I think I'm going to be watching this. Not constantly, but definitely once a year or so.
Yeah.
If you're not super into action flicks and you don't really like the cheesy things, then I'd say just rent it. It's definitely worth checking out.
I mean, it's all right. Like,
yeah,
at the very least.
Yeah. Which I forgot to mention. The whole thing is like, obviously, with rent, buy, or skip. This is our way of showing that like, you know, you're going to buy it, so of course you're going to have it to put up on your shelf and enjoy it whenever you want. Like me, I bought the Steelbook, so it's really cool. It's really awesome. Or rent is like, you know, you'll occasionally watch it every so often. Like every once in a while you'll check it out. And then skip is just like, don't even waste your time. Like it's not worth it. Which, very good points for it being like borderline rent, borderline buy. Because like there has been times to where I've talked about a movie on here where it's like borderline skip, borderline rent, borderline buy, borderline rent, and stuff like that. So this is for me definitely a buy for sure.
Fuck yeah!
Just because of the fact that I just love the cheesiness of it. It's definitely mid-90s movie. It's Jean-Claude Van Damme fighting Raul Julia.
Yep.
Like it's just such a good movie. It has great things in it to where it's just cheesy enough just to not take it so seriously. Like I mentioned, the two biggest things in this movie was just the fact that of the dialogue. Just because of the fact of Guile saying like, I'm gonna get in my boat, I'm gonna go up river, and I'm gonna go basically kick the shit out of Bison to where the next Bison wannabe is gonna feel it. And then especially with Bison telling Chun-Li the day that changed your life was just a normal Tuesday for me. So
it was a Tuesday.
It was Tuesday.
And it's just like, it's so good. Like the dialogue in it is just so great. Like it just being super campy and cheesy and stuff. So I definitely say it's a buy for sure. Which I can understand with some people. It's like, nah, I'd rather just check it out every once in a while and not just really watch it continuously all the time. And especially for this movie, this is definitely like a comfort movie for me now that I've watched it so many times. It's like, you know, if I'm having a bad day or, you know, like I'm just in a bad mood or whatever, it's like, you know, and if you have like an hour and 45 minutes, I think, or close to 2 hours to kill, then it's like, just put this on and maybe that'll bring you in a better mood. So,
exactly.
But yeah, so for me it's a buy. For you it's like borderline rent or buy.
Yeah.
So
say depending on the person.
Yeah. So, but now we're going to talk about certain people, where, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to take, in this kind of an instance of a movie, both sides of the spectrum of it being a bad movie and a super good movie. So first up, we have a bad movie, 1-star rating on IMDb. person says that it's absolutely hilarious. This movie, ... I can't believe how they didn't manage to get even one decent actor into the thing. Every single line is spoken badly and written even worse. Filled with plot holes, I don't even know how you pronounce that.
Where is it? Illogicalities?
Yeah. I'm like, okay. I've just never seen that word.
Right.
Like, this just threw me off. And yeah, and just plain stupid ideas. This movie is nothing short of a classic. The beginning is only stupid, and as the movie advances, so does the brainlessness. And then the finale is reached. I'll tell you, you won't stop laughing for quite a while. Bit of a shame, since this isn't actually a comedy. So with this kind of a thing, I wouldn't say that there wasn't one decent actor, because everybody played their roles like they should have.
Yeah.
Maybe a little, like, too out there, but
I kind of get where they're coming from with that. I mean, Jean-Claude Van Damme, he's not an amazing actor.
No.
But Ming-Na Wen, she's phenomenal. I mean, she's Mulan. She was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
So many other films. And
also you got Raul Julia, who took his role very seriously. Yeah. And this is the reason why he took this role in the first place, was because of his kids. They really love Street Fighter, and they're all like, dude, do Street Fighter. Like, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And especially, like, I don't know if they watch it now growing up and stuff like that. Like, I'm pretty sure that they've seen it a few dozen times, but it's all like, this is my memory of my dad.
Right.
Like, that's what this is.
Yep.
And even at the end of it, it says in memory of Raul Julia.
Yep.
So they shouted him out and stuff like that at the end of it. So
right. And for, like, what the character is, the Bison character, I think he played it very well. I mean, it's supposed to be a bigger, larger than life, kind of chewing the scenery kind of character.
Yeah.
Just maniacal villain.
Right.
He nailed it.
Yeah, and especially for these characters, they're huge. Like, they're jacked as hell.
Yeah.
Like, they're like double the size of what the actors are in the movie.
Yeah.
But it's like, you can't really convey that on screen, because you don't have these huge guys like Sly or Arnold Schwarzenegger that are bodybuilders.
Right.
Like, that's what these guys are. They're bodybuilders right. in a nutshell. But it's like, you kind of have to take the realistic with the unrealistic too.
Yeah.
Because it's like, again, this is a video game movie. You can't take it seriously. Because it's not a serious game in the first place.
Well, yeah, and even what they say in there with, like, the mindless story, like, yeah, it's not like a Shakespearean play or anything.
No,
what do you think this was going to be?
Right, and especially where it's like, and again, I mentioned this earlier, where each character has their own story. The whole thing of Street Fighter is not a story in general. Like,
right.
it's a world tournament that Bison holds, and then at the end of it, you fight him.
Right.
And in certain cases, you fight him, and then you fight an even stronger person than Bison. Right. That's, like, not even a person anymore. It's like they're a freaking alien or something. I don't remember.
Right.
But, like, I remember that in one of the games, it's like that. It's like they're an alien or God or whatever. So
fight God on the street.
Yeah. And so for that, it's like they had to convey a story that made sense for the characters to all get together to fight Bison.
Yeah.
That's all that it is. But, like, they're like the plot holes. It's all like, what plot holes? Like, there's not really any plot holes. It's just like, this happened, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. It's like, there's not really a plot hole in this movie. Yeah. The only plot hole that I have, it's like, you could have just, like, at the end of it, just went to the facility of, like, where
the military
base where Guile is, and just, like, talk about what do we do now, and then it's all like, oh, let's hold a street fight or something, and then just like, they all do their action pose,
right,
instead of having this giant explosion happen behind them, and they all turn around and then they do the action pose. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. But
it's like Power Rangers.
Yeah, it's all like, cool, and it's all like, what? So, but even then, it's like, it's not taking itself seriously. It's not a comedy, yes, but there are comedic bits that happen in this movie.
There are some funny moments, definitely.
But yeah,
to each their own.
Yeah,
you can have your own opinion, but that dude's opinion's wrong.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the reason why that I started calling this Ron People, is because, like, they are Ron opinions of Ron people.
Right.
So, but I got another one here, and then we'll call this an episode. So, got a 10 out of 10 star one.
All right.
So
that's almost perfect.
Yeah, this is a perfect movie too, though. Like no flaws, no nothing. So they said, "Come on, people, this was a decent movie." Okay, right, already off the bat, you're calling it a decent movie.
Right.
You give it a 10 out of 10.
Out of 10. It's decent.
It's decent movie. It's
It's
like
right.
no, a decent movie is like a 5 or a 6.
5 or a 6, yeah.
That's a decent movie.
Right.
It's like middle of the road, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's a movie. Not good, not bad. It's
a movie. You know, you can enjoy it if you want. Otherwise, you can just not even waste your time.
Right.
I just don't get why everybody did not like this movie. I mean, it wasn't Shakespeare, like what you said earlier, but
Maybe
I
wrote this secretly.
Yeah, right. But I was very entertained for the roughly 100 minutes that the movie ran. Van Damme isn't the greatest, but he was still believable. This was a decent action movie with a plot with some decent emotion and acting. Give it a break already. I would agree. It's not Shakespeare like you mentioned earlier.
Right.
But it's like, you know, all of the people played their characters perfectly.
Yeah, with what they were given with the script and everything else.
Because even, like, and I keep mentioning this, even for the time, this was just the first Street Fighter game, or maybe even the second game.
I think it was based off the second one.
Yeah. So it's all like, again, you have these characters. There's no emotion behind them. They have their purpose of why that they're there and why that they're fighting. It's the only thing that you have to go off of.
Right.
Otherwise, there's not really a storyline behind it. So you have to make stuff up as you go.
Fill in the blanks.
So it's like, yeah. And again, it's like, you know, isn't the greatest. Like, Van Damme isn't the greatest, but he was still believable. I do believe that he was Guile.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, he's Belgian, but not American. But still, you know, you can still believe that, you know, like, he's American and he's trying to do this and stuff like that, and trying to take out Bison. That's his whole goal. It's just to basically kill Bison. So, like, that's all that it was. So, but, you know, and given the fact that they just say that this is a decent movie and they give it 10 out of 10, that's just wrong in and of itself.
Yeah.
Because a 10 out of 10 movie is like Shakespearean.
It's perfect, like, literally.
Like, perfect. You have no notes about it except for how perfect it is, how everything's great and everything. You can't give it a 10 out of 10 score and say this is a decent movie.
Yeah.
If it's a decent movie, it's like anywhere between 5 to a 7.
Yeah.
So, like, again, which is why this is wrong people, or Sam likes to put it as certain people. Or suggestive people. He calls it suggestive people because we're taking their suggestive thing off of this and, like, building upon it and pouring stuff out.
Okay.
So, but otherwise, that has been the end of the podcast. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, Spotify. Also, I post clips onto TikTok and our Instagram, so be sure to follow those as well. And, of course, I will link everything in the description below as well. And like I say all the time, be sure to share this with people. Like, if you yourself love movies, you love watching movies and wanting to get other people's ideas about their favorite parts of your favorite movies, definitely check us out. Also, if you guys have any suggestions for movies that you want us to talk about, leave them in the description or the comment section below. And then also just share the hell out of this, because we want to be able to get this out there for other people to enjoy and watch and listen and stuff like that. So it would mean so much if you guys love movies, if you guys know people that love movies. Definitely have them check us out. Share the hell out of this, like I already said. And, you know, like, I'm trying to fine tune this because, like, I'm not so used to doing this all the time.
I'm sure it's an acquired skill.
Yeah, for sure. Because after a while, you kind of get used to it. You kind of just get some things, like, hammered out and stuff. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you guys in the next one. I don't know what we're talking about next week. So,
Street Fighter pose.
Yeah. So, thank you, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.